Hi, this is Steve Adler. Good evening. Got a minute. So tonight we're going to go through some virus numbers because virus numbers are looking pretty good tonight. We're going to talk about this weekend in the football game. We're going to talk about the census, and then we're going to close with a longer conversation about policing, just because it's been in the news today. It's going to be in the news tomorrow, and it looks like it's going to be in the news all the way up until November. Let's begin with the numbers. Here's the first dashboard. We look at the first number, new hospitalizations, 9. This is the first time we've been under 10 for new hospitalizations since early June, just after the first week. That's a good number for us. It gets the 7-day moving average down to 18. You can see with the graph in the middle, we've kind of leveled off, but we've leveled off at a relatively low number. Infectivity in the community stays at the same 4.6 that we talked about yesterday. That number just gets updated once a week. Remember again that for the very first time, infectivity among the Hispanic Latino population went below 10%, which was good, trending downwards, but they should be below 5% too, so we have to continue working that way. 82 new cases today, which is pretty much our 7-day average of 83. Now let's look at hospitalizations. We'll go to the second chart because again, we have a number that stands out, just like the single-digit number for new hospitalizations. Tonight in our hospitals, 99 people. It's the first time we've been below 100. So it's really early June. The 7-day running average is 123, so we're substantially below that. ICUs 40 and ICUs 43 is the 7-day running average. 24 on ventilators tonight, 27 is the 7-day running average. So you can see that we continue to move. Number of people that have died, 399. No new people died in the last 24 hours. And that's always a relief when we see that number. But I want everyone to take note. These numbers are low only because of the work we did in the community, the discipline we had in the community. To wear masks and to social distance, to wash our hands. There was a community pulling together that got this done. That lowers the risk as when we open schools gradually, slowly, measuring as we do that. It's going to better enable us to sustain the opening of schools, to sustain the opening of businesses. We can't let up. We can't let up until there's a vaccine. And anything that causes us to let up puts risk for being able to open up schools. That's why I am concerned about the football game this weekend. Dr. Escott tells us that in a group of 25,000 people, there'll be probably about 40, 50 people that have the virus. They may not even know they have the virus in the crowd. You're not going to know sitting next to somebody or standing in line to get into the game or a line at the food concession stand if you're next to somebody who has the virus. It's not to say that we're going to necessarily fall off the tracks with the football game this weekend, but it presents a risk. And that's why everybody, if you're going to the game, and I will not be going, but if you go, make sure you social distance. Don't stand in a line too close to people. Follow the university rules. No tailgating. And if you can't tailgate formally, don't go to a bar and be surrounded by other people. We have a couple hundred students that have been infected so far, and I urge students to look around the community, see the discipline that this community has shown to drive down those numbers. You're part of this city. We're all in this together, and I urge everybody to show that discipline. If there was ever any question about whether masking works, Austin is the example of the fact that it does. So really, let's maintain that discipline. We're going to know over the next 2 or 3 weeks whether the Labor Day weekend, last weekend, caused us to have a spike or not. My fingers are crossed. Everyone, please wear your mask, social distance, whenever you're around other people. I want to remind everybody to take the census. There were states all across the country that have invested millions of dollars into the census. Some states are being counted more than Texas, which is unfortunate. That undercuts the number of Congress members that we have, the funding that comes to our cities. Texas didn't spend any money at all, which is why locally we've had to put up the money, Austin and Travis County. I understand this past week that the state has decided to put some money with literally a month to go in the whole process. I'm not complaining. That's better than nothing. So it's good that the state's getting involved now, but it is an example of why that it's important enough for the state to get now involved. It looks like it could be over by the end of this month. So please complete the census form if you haven't. Send that link to other people. Make sure all your family, all your friends are being counted so that we get our fair share of the federal funding and it's not sent to other cities and other states across the country. Let me close by talking about policing because that's making the news yesterday, today, and I fear it's going to make the news more and more as we get to November. I'm looking, there's a press conference the governor's having tomorrow and a pledge. He wants everybody to sign, pledging that they're not going to defund the police. Just to be really clear, I oppose defunding the police. We shouldn't be defunding the police. Police play a very important part in keeping our city safe. We have some of the best police officers in the entire country. That's why we pay in Austin our police officers more than just about anybody else, certainly more than anyone else in the state. That's why coming into this year, the Texas Tribune did their article. We were paying per capita more for police than any other major city in the state. $444 per person compared to mid 300s for other cities. We do that because we recognize how important policing is, and we support and back the blue in our city. But being safe means that you have to constantly try to make sure that we can be even safer. I mean, Austin is the safest big city in Texas, one of the safest cities in the entire country. But I'll tell you, when you read the political rhetoric and look on social media, you just wouldn't know that. There was a PAC that came out today that formed up that also made the news in some of the stations coming out against Austin because we had cut $150 million from the police budget. That's what they tell people. That's not true either. Just like we haven't defunded the police, we didn't cut $150 million out of the police. And I just feel like some people think if they say that over and over and over and over again, it'll convince people that it's true, even though it's not true. But that PAC was talking about that, even though that's not true, and also pointing out that we had one of the highest rates of increased homicides in the country. But what they don't talk about is that if you look at the total number of homicides, when you look at cities, Austin is, in fact, you have to hold up the piece of paper to get down to Austin. I mean, you could have a 50% increase in homicides in Austin, and you probably wouldn't get up to nearly to where Fort Worth is, a smaller city than we are. This is how safe Austin is. There was an article this weekend that was also made in the newspaper. It's about the state numbers, the DPS crime statistic numbers, and it talked about how the volume of crime has gone up in all the major cities in Texas, including in Austin. Of the increased incidence of crime in Austin between 2018 and 2019, that state DPS study showed that 83% of the increase in Austin in crime is larcenies. We've also had an increase in auto thefts. But if you take out those two things, the larcenies and the auto thefts, then Austin's crime rate was flat going from 2018 to 2019. A safe city stayed safe. And the reason for that is because the total number of murders and the total number of murders stayed flat, but the total number of rapes went down, the total number of robberies went down, the total number of burglaries went down. And that's why Austin continues to be the safest big city in Texas. So I look at the governor's pledge that he's going to be talking out tomorrow. Wants to know if people are going to say that they oppose to funding the police, which I oppose, and want people to show their support for brave law enforcement officers who risk their lives to protect and serve. I support our brave law enforcement officers who are protecting and serving. I don't get this pledge other than the politics that are associated with that. You know, the most important public safety threat that we have right now in our community is the COVID virus. Our community did a really good job of pushing that down. That's because we had a mandated mask policy in our city before the state had one. If the mayors did that across the state, if our state had a mandated masking policy at the time that the city's mayors and county judges were asking for it, we would have had a lot fewer people die in our state. That was the real public safety lapse that exists in our state right now. I look at the House Democratic Caucus. If you really are concerned about safety, you would be expanding Medicaid so that all Texans can afford accessible health care. You'd be opposing cuts to the public education. You'd be supporting meaningful criminal justice reform like the Texas Legislative Black Caucus George Floyd Act. Those are the things that we would be doing. This debate or discussion about whether we have defunded police it's hard to watch because it's simply not true. I don't know anyone, any of my colleagues on the city council that are supporting the funding of police. We're a safe city, and that means we are constantly on the lookout for ways to be safer, investing money so that we don't have people camping and sitting by the sides of our road, but they're actually getting support and in housing. Will mean that our police officers don't have to spend time being our social workers, increasing the EMS folks we have in this city, so that and getting mental health first responders out, so that our police officers can focus more on crime. We're not the only city doing that kind of thing. Here's a story out of Denver. They have moved to have mental health first responders take the 911 calls. And since they've set that up here just a few weeks ago, they've gone on 350 calls. And every one of those calls, it wasn't necessary to call back up with police officers. It's perhaps a better, safer way to deal with those things. We have billboards now going up on I-35 to come and enter our city, suggesting again that we have defunded police. Again, you can say these things over and over and over again. I guess some people just hope that at some point people will begin to think that it's true, and it's not. Public safety, absolutely the number one priority. Everything that we are doing is designed and focused on making sure that Austin, an already safe city, is safe, and it is safe for everyone who lives in our city. Because everyone who lives in our city deserves not only to be safe, but to feel safe. We're going to continue to be focused on that. I want to try really hard not to get caught up in all the politics and rhetoric as we get closer and closer to November. But I want you to know that I am focused on the priority of keeping our community safe, keeping you, your family safe. And in doing that, public safety involves lots of people, including our police, that I support. With that, wish you all a good night.